Hello, my name is Madeline, and I am here with Premier TEFL to talk to you today about South Korea and teaching English in South Korea. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes here as we have people joining us and get started. So if you are joining us, please feel free to pop into the chat where you are joining us from today. I, of course, am in Seoul, South Korea, but originally I am from Vancouver, Canada. So, where else are people joining us from today? And that's okay. I'll give people a few minutes to start popping in and saying hello. We did just start right now. I'll give people time to come on in. But once you do, please tell us where you're joining from. And if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, I'll do a lot of talking at the beginning. And then I can try and answer questions as we go. But we'll also have time for a question session at the very end so I can go back and look at some of your questions. But hopefully, oh, we have Barbara joining us from Italy. Ooh, Verona, Italy. Exciting. Hi, Barbara. So feel free to pop in the chat where you're joining from today. Again, I'm Madeline and I am joining from Seoul, South Korea, but I am originally from Vancouver, Canada. So I took a very long journey to get here, but I'm very excited to share everything that I've learned so far being in South Korea and hopefully inspire you to move here as well and get rid of any doubts or concerns or fears you may have. Although I had a lot myself to begin with, but we'll just give people a couple more minutes to join us before we pop into the meat of all the information. So let me know where you're joining from, or if you have any questions, feel free to pop that in the chat. I think the chat actually ends up on one side of my screen here. For me, it's below. Yeah, I'll go over as well, what we're going to be talking about today. So, some of the things I'll be talking about today is why South Korea. If you see me peeking over here, it's just because I have my notes here. I'm not very good at memorizing big 45-minute speeches, so I have a list of notes I'll be checking out. We're going to be talking about the types of schools that you can join in South Korea and the locations and some of the information around that. We'll talk about socializing and lifestyle. I know a really big fear for a lot of people when they first move here is how do I make friends? How do I go out? What is it like, especially during COVID? But I know for me, my biggest thing was I'm leaving all my friends and family behind. How do I create a network of people that are going to support me once I'm here? We'll talk about travel and COVID and how things have kind of shifted and what that looks like from the moment you leave and arrive and what the situation is like in South Korea. And I'll talk about budgets and some tips and tricks that I've learned since being here to save some money. You can save a lot of money working in South Korea. It's one of the highest paying TEFL and teaching English opportunities out there. And then I'll just go over at the end my top tips, things that I really wish people had told me, or I'm really thankful that people told me before I arrived here. And then we'll have time at the end to do some live question and answer, or I can just keep telling you tips, however we feel. Oh, hi Rosie, nice to see you. Great. So we're about 4 minutes in, so why don't we jump on into everything and we'll let people join us as they do. So again, my name is Madeline and I am one of the interns here at Premier TEFL. So I help out with just talking about my experience and getting all the information I can so that I can share it with all of you and make your experiences even better when you come over here, or just to help you feel more excited about going abroad to teach. So I'll start off with why South Korea. I know for myself, South Korea wasn't actually the first place I thought of. I was really interested in going to Vietnam for a long time. I'd been there before. I loved the country. I knew I would really, really love it there. But I was supposed to move there right before COVID hit. So my plans got derailed. But as I talked to more and more friends and I had to kind of maneuver around COVID as a situation, I just heard over and over again how wonderful being in South Korea is. And I had friends here, so I decided, okay, let's go for it. I think it sounds like a really great country, and they were not wrong in any way. It truly is an incredible experience to come here. It is such an incredible country. I worked a little bit in education before I came over, and they have one of the best education systems in the entire world. It's in one of the top 3 countries in the whole world, their education systems. So if you're just interested in either starting out as a teacher or you have years and years of experience, either way, you're going to learn a lot by teaching English in South Korea and just seeing the structure of their education system. Other reasons, the food. I follow my stomach just about everywhere, and the food here is incredible. From street food, you can always buy food on the street. There's amazing restaurants around every single corner, and there's always something new to try. Korea has so many different traditional dishes from every single different region of the country. So there's always something new to try. There is always a new flavor. There's always something that you can go out and do. So I love just planning all of my holidays and adventures on the weekend around food. Other than that, I mentioned before, it's a really great country if you want to save any money. It's one of the highest paying positions that you can get when you come over. So you're able to save quite a bit, but I'll talk about that more in the budget section. You get free airfare. So the schools here pay for you to fly over from whatever country you're from. They will fly you over to Korea. So you get free airfare and you get free accommodations. So your school will set you up with your own apartment, and it's great. My apartment is only an 8-minute walk to work every day. Everyone I work with lives within a 10-minute walk from our school. So it's really nice to be able to be really close and to have someone figure that out for you so you don't have to figure out accommodations living in a different country. The healthcare system. I'm from Canada, so I like my healthcare system a lot, but this healthcare system is incredible. So everything when you come over, you get healthcare through your school, and pretty much everything is covered. So that's a really big plus as well. If you're worried about, again, moving to a new country, having to navigate those different systems, your school will help you out with a lot of things. Your coworkers will help you out with a lot of things, but it's also really good to know if you have to go to the hospital, you can. If you have to go to the dentist, you can. So that was a big plus for me as well, is making sure that if anything did happen, knock on wood, nothing has, but if it does, you're going to be taken care of and there's going to be a good system in place. And lastly, there's a really large market here for jobs right now. Teaching English is very, very big here right now. So there's tons and tons of schools to choose from, which means there's lots of job opportunities, which means there's opportunities for everyone. If you're someone who's more into the artistic side of things, there's art schools that are hiring English speaking teachers. If you're more into the sciences, there are science schools that are hiring more English speaking teachers. So there's lots of opportunities to go into more niche areas or just to apply to jobs in general. So I'm just checking down here. Oh, hello everyone. We have from Poland, from South Africa, from Cape Town. Fantastic. Hello. I'll just say again, my name is Madelyn and I'm an intern here at Premier TEFL. I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada, but of course I now live in Seoul, South Korea. So I was just going over some of the big reasons why people choose South Korea to move here. And I think the biggest one, of course, other than what I just mentioned, is the culture. There's such a rich culture here with such a deep history. I didn't realize how little I knew about South Korea until about a year before I came here. I started researching more and more, and just it is such a beautiful culture, and there is so much history and traditions to learn. And so, if you're interested in those sorts of things, this is definitely a country that you want to come and live in for a while. So, another from South Africa. Hello, Marilyn. Wonderful. Okay, so I will jump into what is next. And just, I said at the beginning, but if you see me peeking over the side here, I'm just looking at my notes. I am not good at memorizing 40-minute speeches. All right, so I'll talk a little bit about schools. So there's really two different major kind of schools here. You can either go and teach in a public school, or you can go and teach in something called a hagwon. So public school, normal school system, they have school between September through June, and then you get a few months off. A hagwon is a private school. So it's usually for kindergarten, it's during the day, and then they have elementary, which is kind of like a private academy after school. And most hagwons will run both during the day and during the evening. So with public schools, they do their intakes usually around June, July, sometimes into August if they're still looking for teachers to start in September. So they usually just have one big intake a year. Hagwons are always hiring. So they're very popular, especially with foreigners, because if you want to move at any point in time, there's always hagwons that are hiring throughout the entire country. Now, hagwons usually have varied hours. So if you like, working at night and being awake during the day to explore, there's hagwons that run very, very late at night, sometimes till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And then there's hagwons like the one I work at. We do kindergarten in the morning and then elementary school, so an academy in like the afternoon, kind of into the evening, about 7 o'clock. So really, again, going back to there are so many opportunities that you can pick whatever kind of job and schedule you want and then look for jobs based around that. I would say though, stay flexible because I know that there was very specific aspects that I was looking for, but I'm really happy at the job I ended up at. And if I had stuck to those very specific aspects, I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity to work at this hagwon. So, yeah, those are the two different kinds of schools. So, location wise, I mean, I'm in Seoul. 70% of the population in South Korea lives in Seoul. So, there's a lot of people here, there's a lot of jobs. But also, most English teachers want to teach in Seoul because it is the big city, because it is so famous, and because there is so much to do. So if I'm a big city girl, I like being in the city. So I knew that and I had friends here, so I really wanted to be here. But I have had friends that have gone and worked in smaller towns. I've had friends that have gone and worked in the south, like in Busan, which is the second biggest city, and they have loved it. Because it's not as busy, it's easier to meet other foreigners and to create a community a lot faster. There's still so much to do in all of these cities. So I really, if you're thinking about coming to South Korea, I would really say take some time to research the different cities. Look on blogs, look on forums, pop into Facebook groups, ask people where they have been before because there's so many opportunities in other places and Seoul is not the only city that's hiring. So that's it. That's also sometimes there's bigger opportunities in other cities because they're not as popular. So employers want to draw you there with, better apartments, more pay, better benefits, maybe more holidays, those sorts of things. So when you are looking to apply for a school, there's a couple of different ways. Of course, you can absolutely do the process yourself. There's lots of different websites that you can visit and be able to hop into, and you can look for yourself. You can go through an agency, which is what I did. I'm very nervous. I like having someone I can ask lots and lots of questions to. So, what the agency will do is you send them a video of yourself teaching, you send them a resume, and you send them a generic cover letter, and they put that into their databases, and they're connected to lots of schools. The other reason that I went with an agency is because there are, unfortunately, like any job, a lot of schools that maybe don't treat their employees well. So if you're just doing it on your own, you might not know. They're called blacklists that are out there on the forums. If you're applying for a school, please, please, please check these lists because, especially on Dave's Cafe, ESL Cafe, there's really good lists on there because you want to make sure that you're not stepping into a toxic environment in any way and signing up for a year-long contract there. So I went with an agency as well because they know the schools that are really reputable. They know the locations of schools that are really reputable. So they're able to make sure that you're getting put into an environment that's going to help you as a teacher and be supportive to you as a teacher and not somewhere that you might end up being very unhappy. And then the third option is to do the EPIC program, which is the government run program to be able to go into schools. So that's just for the public school system here. It is very competitive to get into just because it's so popular, but they do intakes. I believe it's twice a year that they do intakes, but I definitely know that their main intake is in February, and that's for the September start. So it is a bit of a longer process. And you don't unfortunately get to pick the location that you want to go into. So I've had friends do that program, they loved it, but they didn't know what location they were going to be at until they got off their plane in Korea. So they got off their plane, someone picked them up, and they're like, oh, by the way, this is the city you'll be living in, this is the age group you'll be teaching, and this is the school you're working at. They loved it. They thought it was a really fun adventure just to be able to go and jump into it. So it totally depends on your comfort level. And it totally depends on if there's really specific areas that you would like to live in. Scroll down and check in on the chat here. Great, no big questions yet for me. But yes, if you have any questions, feel free to, oh, I think the chat is somewhere on the side. It's down there for me, but feel free to pop into the chat and pop in any questions if you have them for me at any point in time. We will have a live Q&A session at the very end as well. So yeah, that's kind of schools and locations. Again, Dave's ESL Cafe, that's a great website. There's so many people on there that are willing to help you if you pop into a forum, and there's lots and lots of content on there as well. Premier TEFL's website is building up their blogs. There's lots of great information going on there too. And then lots of Facebook groups. I know Premier TEFL has a really good one for alumni that you can jump into, but also just asking people that work at the company. They know about these things. Asking friends if they know anyone. I was really surprised actually by how many friends I had that had come and work in Korea. So ask around, ask tons and tons of questions. Making the jump can be really scary, but it is truly incredible as an adventure. All right, so on to socializing and lifestyle. So my biggest fear moving here was that I wouldn't have any friends and I would be alone every weekend just sitting in my apartment. That was not true. I made friends right away. My coworkers at work were super lovely. But if you maybe don't click with your coworkers, then that's okay too. I have four major things that I can tell you. My favorite apps or websites to use. So, of course, Facebook groups. There are so many Facebook groups. There are Facebook groups specific to cities. There are Facebook groups if you just want to hang out, with people that like to do rock climbing or people that like to go running. Think about activities that you like to do and just type that in and join a Facebook group. I am a part of a Facebook group for people that just want to talk about skincare and share stuff about skincare. And I've been chatting to some really lovely people in there. So Facebook groups are awesome. Also, Bumble. I know Bumble is a dating app for a lot of us in different countries, but there is a Bumble BFF version that a lot of foreigners use here. And I've been meeting some really cool people through that as well and chatting. People that have lived here for sometimes 5, 10 years. Some people are locals, and then there's people like me that are a little bit more fresh that are on there. But it's a great way to make friends very quickly with other people that are in your situation. Another really good one, especially if you're looking for language exchange, is an app called Meef. That's MEEF, capital letters. Now, it's kind of like Bumble. It can be a language exchange, or it can also kind of be a dating app. So people go on for both. They'll say in their profile if they're looking for to date or if they're just looking for friends. But there's tons of people on there that are just looking to meet up, especially locals that are trying to learn more English. But those are great people to hang out with because they're going to be able to show you where all the cool restaurants are. They're going to be able to take you to the really neat festivals or art galleries or whatever you're interested in. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of people on there all across Korea. And Meef is you can set it specifically to Korea. It's a worldwide app, but you can set it specifically to Korea. So even before you get here, you can set it up and just say, hey, I'm arriving in a month. I'm looking to make some friends. Here are the things I'm interested in. And you can start chatting. And the last one that I would have to say is a website called Meetup. One word, Meetup. And you sign up for the website, you create a little profile, it's all free. And people go on there and they just create groups. So it can be, meet up on Sunday at the Han River for barbecue. Everybody brings, their favorite snack. And so big groups of people come and all meet together, and it's a really great way to make a big group of people and then kind of figure out friends from there. There's also groups that do like tours. They'll be like, oh, we're looking for 20 people to do this tour together so we can get a better price. So you can sign up for the meetup and then you can all go together and go do a group activity. So I also love Meetup. I've used it when I've traveled all over the world, and it's really great in Korea as well. I go on there and there's lots and lots of things happening, like board games in the park, picnics, tours, just people that are like, I love art galleries. Who wants to go explore like 6 art galleries in the next month together? So those would be my big tips for making friends. Most foreigners that move here, most people that are moving here to teach English, they don't have a circle of friends. So everyone is super friendly and wanting to make friends when they get here. So definitely try those out if you're nervous and you will meet people. I promise you will meet people. I'm just going to check the comment section here below. Great. Okay. Nothing big for me yet. All right, let's move along. So travel and COVID. So thankfully, a lot of the restrictions have eased in Korea. So right now, the only big restriction is that you have to wear a mask when you're indoors. So I wear a mask all day at school. The kids wear masks all day at school. If you're in shopping centers, anything like that, you're masked. When you're outside, you don't have to wear a mask. There's more restrictions when you first arrive in the country. So prior to getting here, you have to get a PCR test 48 hours in advance. It might be a little bit different for your country, so make sure that you're checking what you need to do for your country. But I know that everyone has to be tested upon entering the country. They don't have a quarantine period anymore for most countries, but you do have to do it's kind of like a 24-hour quarantine when you first get here. It's very soft, but I know I flew in at 6 o'clock at night, and you have to get a test done either the day you arrive or the day after, and then wait for the results to come back negative before you can go out into the public. So I arrived 6 o'clock at night on a Saturday. Sunday morning, my director of my school picked me up. We walked to a little medical clinic a block away, did the test, and within an hour, she texted me and said, yep, you're good to go. And so I could go outside. So it wasn't really a full quarantine period. It was really, really simple. And honestly, I just wanted to sleep after landing anyways. So it's very, very simple here. If you do feel like you have symptoms or anything like that, there's tests at every single pharmacy. Your school will usually have tests for you as well. So the restrictions are very, very low. Now, in terms of traveling here, check with your country because every single country is different in terms of what they have to do. I know coming from Canada and the States, I had to get a PCR test 48 hours before. I would get the negative test, and then I had to have a copy of that and put it into an app called Q Code, which is the South Korea government app. To essentially, it connects to all their systems. So from the moment I checked in for my plane all the way through until getting my negative test on the other side, they tracked me to make sure they knew where I was and to make sure that they had all my negative tests collected in the same area. So very easy, but it was a little nerve-wracking, as I'm sure everyone who's had to travel getting those tests and making sure it's on time. But do check what your country specific needs are because it does change from country to country. Um, Yep, that's all for really COVID and everything restrictions. I mean, people are like, you can go out to a bar here. They're having concerts. You can go and travel around the country. If you leave the country, you do have to do another test to get back in. But it's not as locked down as it has been in the past. So it's been pretty lovely actually to like go out to the park in the summer and have a picnic and not have to worry, and be able to be unmasked when you're having a picnic. So yeah, it's going really well. All right, and we will move on to just doing a time check. Okay, so budgets and savings. I'm checking if there's just any questions here for me. Okay. Nope, not so far. But if you do have questions, please feel free to pop them in the bottom. Sorry, my makeup is melting. So in South Korea right now, it is 8:30 p.m. So I have worked a full day with kids and I am almost ready for bed. But I'll go on to budget and spending money. So this was another big stressor, as I'm sure it is for most people when they've moved to a new country, is just, am I gonna have enough? What do I need it for? How much should I bring in cash? How much is it actually gonna cost as a monthly expense? So I'll share a little bit of what my costs were when I first moved here, pre-arrival, and then right directly arrival costs. And then I'll share kind of my monthly budget and what it looks like. So my big pre-arrival costs is you have to have travel insurance for the first 3 months. So for me, that was about $500 Canadian. And again, it'll completely differ. I know my American friends, they're like, it only cost me $100 US. So completely differ wherever you're from. But the big thing is when you first arrive, you don't have any medical coverage. Usually it can be between the first month, the first 3 months, because you have to apply for your ARC card, which is your alien registration card, which I love the name of. Um, so your ARC card is going to give you all of your medical. It's going to allow you to sign up for things like international delivery if you want to order stuff. So it helps you do a lot. Oh, and it gives you the ability to open a bank account and to get a Korean phone number. So your ARC card is very, very important, but it does take time to process once you get here. I got my ARC card about 4 weeks into being here, so it was okay, but I do know other friends that it took them like 3 months to get their ARC card fully processed. So travel insurance was a big one. Flights are covered. I had to pay for my flight up front, and then my school paid me back when I arrived here. Some schools don't pay you back until after your first 3 months. Some schools don't pay you back until the end of your contract. So just make sure that you ask your school ahead of time when you're going to get that payment back so you can budget for it. Visa costs, which are going to be different for every single person and in every single country. My visa costs, the just the visa costs without having to collect all the paperwork, I think was about $80 Canadian. But then there's the paperwork you have to get. So I had to get a criminal record check. I had to get a copy of my diploma. I did my diploma abroad. So I had to get two copies that were, stamped and all sorts of things. So mine was a little bit higher than most. But it totally depends again on what country you're from, or it depends on what paperwork that you need for your school. Okay, sorry, my iPad died, so I'm moving to my phone here. Other big costs I had. Okay, so my PCR test coming over, again, dependent on your country, but mine was about $120, so just budgeting that in. And when you arrive here as well, to get onto the medical program in South Korea, you have to do a health check. So they check your eyes, they check your ears, they take an x-ray of your lungs to make sure that you're all healthy. It was like a pee in a cup situation as well. So they did a drug test, they did a blood test. I think that was everything. Oh, they measured my height and my weight. So it's just so that they kind of have a baseline and they make sure that you don't have any really big issues prior to going on to the public health system here. So that health check was about $100. But because I just had a bit of cash with me when I first arrived here, my school paid for everything and then just took that out of my paycheck the first time that I was here. One thing you might have to pay for as well is transport from the airport. A lot of schools, because COVID restrictions are easing, a lot of schools will come and pick you up at the airport or arrange for you to be picked up at the airport. But again, that's something to ask your school is who's picking me up? How am I getting to my apartment? And SIM cards. So getting a SIM card, you can get a traveler SIM card from the airport or from a website called Trazy. That's Trazy, Trazy, Trazy. They do lots of tours as well, but Trazy, you can get a SIM card left for you at the airport. And that's a really easy way to have a traveler's SIM card right when you arrive, so you have a little bit of data to be able to talk to people. And then once you have your ARC card, you're able to transfer that over to get a real phone number, a Korean phone number, and then be able to have a real plan that you pay for, which is a little bit cheaper. So going over just really quickly, like a budget that I do. So my bills are very cheap. My electricity bill is like maybe $20. My water bill is 15. Internet, I think, is the most expensive at 35. My phone is 35. And then you'll pay for health insurance, which is 50-50 with your school. So it depends on that. Again, you have to talk to your school and see what health insurance they're putting you on, but they'll pay half of it. So really, like once you look at everything, it's like maybe $100 for all of my bills. And then on top of that, it's just whatever other monthly costs that you want to put towards. So, I have a couple of subscriptions that I do. I really love cooking at home, so I always put money aside for groceries. But if you want to eat out, eating out here is great, especially if you eat local, you'll save lots of money. It's the more international food that really the costs add up. Yeah, so here's some saving tips. So eating local, shopping at open air markets or shopping at where the locals shop. The grocery stores can be great, but they will be more expensive. Get memberships to things, get points. That's a huge thing here. You can order things on Coupang, which is South Korea's version of Amazon. And once you have a Korean phone number with your ARC card, you can order anything you ever wanted in life. It's amazing, and it'll arrive like the next day. Taking trains and buses. At least in Seoul, the transit system is fantastic, and it is so cheap. You're paying like $1, $2, $3 to go all over the city. And And oh, shop at Daiso. So everyone that when you get here, everyone will tell you to go to Daiso. It's a Japanese, like kind of like a dollar store, but everything there is under $5. I think most of my apartment is furnished from Daiso, just because it's so cheap, it's so cute, and they have literally everything that you will need except groceries. So Daiso, and there's tons of them. I think there's at least three in my neighborhood. So that's a great place if you just need to, get some kitchen stuff, get some bathroom stuff, kind of have something in your apartment so it looks like you live here. That's a great place to start. All right, so we're going to move into questions soon. So I see a couple of questions here. Do, do, do. Cool. So I'll answer some of these questions, then I'll hop into some of my top tips, and then if you have more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. What course did I do? I did the Premier TEFL course. And I did they have like a special bundle that I did because it was so awesome. It's an intern course, and so you get the full teaching course, the 120-hour teaching course, and then they also connect you with an agency for the cost of that. And then the agency helps you find a job. So everything was covered, everything was put together. It was just a nice bundle that you got to pick up. And for me, it was perfect. I was working full time before I came here. So figuring out all the visa requirements, figuring out like how and when to organize my schedule to do the course, it was very, very overwhelming. So I just wanted something really easy that someone was kind of handing me the package, handing me the checklist, walking me through every step, there to answer questions. And I love that I was able to do that. So I highly recommend looking at Premier TEFL's courses and their bundles. They have their internships, they're called. So they have internships in a couple of different countries. It's all on their website. I know they also have one going on in Thailand as well. And it's fantastic, especially if you're working full time. Like I worked full time right up until like a week before I moved here. So I really appreciated having someone that was saying like, hey, we set up interviews with you, for you. Hey, here's what you need to do for your visa, checking in with me if I was feeling okay, if I was feeling nervous. It was fantastic all the way through. And in terms of salary, so in South Korea, the starting salary for most people who are moving here and have never taught before, if you have no education experience, then it's between about like 2,100 Canadian to about like 2,300 Canadian. Again, it depends on the school. Public schools will pay a little bit less, but you get more time off. Hagwons, reason why so many people go to Hagwons is because they do end up paying more, but you get less vacation days. So it's up to you. If you have education experience, if you've worked with kids, if you've even done like, worked as a camp counselor, if you've anything, if you have something in there, they really, really want to see that in your resume. And like I mentioned earlier, you'll send a little video of doing like a fake 5-minute lesson. And they'll use that to see, okay, do you know how to manage a classroom? Do you know how to deal with kids if they're not behaving? The education system is really great here, but also very, very strict. So can you get a classroom full of kindergartners to sit down and pay attention? So if you do have a more education experience, which I did, I had about 10 years of experience in varying degrees coming in. So my salary, I got offered a little bit higher. So it's closer to, it'll be a range if you have higher, it'll be usually between 2,400 to 2,600 is the most that I've seen paid to a teacher for their first year. Then if you decide to, every contract is a year. So if you decide to stay more than a year, then every year they'll bump your salary up and up. So if you stay with the same hagwon longer, then you'll earn more and more each year. How long did it take to get a response from a school after applying? Oh my goodness, it was so fast. I interviewed, I think, on a Tuesday. They showed me the contract on Wednesday, and by Thursday slash Friday, I had signed and we were in the final application period. So incredibly quick. You can also say, like, I was looking to move right away. So you can also say, like, I'm not looking to arrive until a month from now or 2 months from now. One of the big tips that I will give, and is something I really wish I could have done, is I wish I could have arrived here a month early to travel, to get used to everything, to figure out my neighborhood. You won't be able to move into your apartment a month early, but just to get to experience Korea. Because, like I said, I arrived on a Saturday. I had Sunday to do my test and like buy things like basic groceries and toilet paper and like kind of figure out how to get to my school, how to walk there the next day. And then I started on Monday. So I was really lucky. Some people arrive and then they start the next day. So my biggest tip, if I could go back in time and redo it, is having even just a couple of weeks to explore my city, to explore and enjoy Korea. Especially if you're working for a hagwon, you're not gonna have a lot of vacation time. And the hours are usually longer. So it is harder to, if you're working in Seoul, you can't just go to Busan for, a week. It's not going to happen unless it's during those vacation times. So if you want to come a little bit earlier, you absolutely can. You just have to communicate that with the school and make sure that they're hiring for a position that starts a few months later. Um, awesome. I'm seeing people already are enrolled in Premier TEFL courses. That's so great. Where are there any positions that you've heard of that are online? Yes, there's lots of positions online. There's specific websites that do online. I, in particular, didn't look those up because I wanted to be in the classroom with kids. Prior to this, I was working as an online events manager for kids courses, so I just wanted to be around kids. But there's lots of websites and there's tons and tons of blogs out there to be able to help. I think there's even, if you look in the live section of Premier TEFL's Facebook group or Facebook page, there is a live that was done, I think like a month or two ago, and it's all about working online as an English teacher. I was watching some of it the other day and it's really great information. I was taking down notes as well. But in terms of hours, I did not get to choose my hours, but I did get to know the hours before I applied for the job. So you'll get to see it in the posting. They'll tell you what the hours are. So the hours that I currently work is I get to work about 9 a.m. I do kindergarten from 9 a.m. until 2 o'clock with a lunch break in there. And then I have another break from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And then I work from, depending on the day, from 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock, sometimes 7:30, sometimes 6 o'clock, doing elementary school classes. So I get two breaks during the day. They're each about an hour long. But it's a long day with kids. I love it. I love being around kids, but it's a lot of time with kids. So, but I knew that going in. So it totally depends on how much time you want to spend. Mostly you will work full time. But I have heard about part-time positions once in a while coming up. So you just have to keep an eye out for them. Or if you're working with an agency, you just have to communicate that that's a priority for you. Okay, I'm looking through. Okay, I think I've caught up on all the questions. So we have a couple of minutes left here. So I'm just going to run through my last like big hot tips for you. So one of them is really read over your contract, no matter who you are working for. Know your rights as an employee. Know what should be legally offered. Like I said, sometimes you'll get schools and they're great. Sometimes you'll get schools and they're not so great. But if you know what you're legally entitled to, then you can advocate for yourself. So just really make sure that you know what the laws are. You can find them on lots of forums. You can find them in English. The South Korean government does have all their websites. They have a Korean version and an English version. So you can go through and read what all of the labor laws are and what you're entitled to in terms of medical insurance, in terms of if you have to pay into pensions or taxes in your own country, how many hours that you're allowed to work, because some schools will push and try and make you work more hours without paying you overtime. So just knowing those labor laws ahead of time. Like I said, if you can travel beforehand, it's great. It makes the whole experience better because then you know a little bit more about Korea and where you live. Other things I really wish that people had told me. Oh, Google Maps doesn't work here. Google Maps does not work here. They use Naver as their version of Google. It's all in Korean, but if you don't read any Korean, there's an app called Kakao, which is Kakao Maps, and that can be translated into English. Kakao Talk is like their version of WhatsApp and Facebook in the same thing. So everyone here uses Kakao Talk. Everyone here either uses Kakao Maps or Kakao or Naver Maps. Um, so download those. They're awesome. And oh, the other app that saves my life every single day is called Papago. It is Papago, and it translates text, it translates photos, it translates talking. So I've had my landlord does not speak any English. I don't speak a lot of Korean. So we can both talk into this app and it will translate it back and forth for us so we can have a conversation. So, Papago, download it. If it's the only thing you do before coming here, download it. I use it a lot with my kids as well when they're doing writing assignments to try and help them translate so they can learn, upgrade their vocabulary as they're learning. All right, I'm not seeing any other big questions coming in here, and we are coming to a close. That's all my big ones. There's also, I've written some blogs, started writing some blogs for Premier TEFL as well, which include my top tips for teaching. So I think it's 5 of my top tips that I wish someone had told me about teaching in South Korea, specifically about, classroom management, things that you can do in the classroom. And then I also wrote a blog all about just like again, all the things I wish I knew to pack, all the apps I wish I knew to download. There's another blog on there as well that just goes into more detail. And there's another wonderful intern that is living here in South Korea that is writing other blogs. So be sure to check out Premier TEFL's blogs and looking on there. There's also hundreds of blogs on the internet. But be careful what you read. Take everything with a little bit of salt, because it's everyone's experience is very, very different. But all right, I'll check here for last. Is there an age limit for teaching in Korea? Nope. I have a friend who is turning 45 and he has been teaching in Korea for the last 3 years. No age limit. Were there any teaching assistants in your class? Yes. Every classroom will have, they're called KTs, Korean teachers, especially for the little kids, because sometimes they do not understand what you are saying and you don't understand what they're saying. So they will help you translate everything. So many questions now. Okay, how do you feel about being surrounded by Korean language now? I love it. I love the Korean language. I am still such a baby. I'm learning little phrases to help me get through just, getting groceries, those sorts of things. There is the blog post that I was talking about like things I wish I knew before moving to Korea on the Premier TEFL page gives a couple of examples of just little phrases with links to learning them that I really wish I had known before coming here. I knew how to say like hello and like thank you, and that was it. And then I would go to buy something and someone's like, do you need a bag? And I was like, and then they would look at me like I was insane because I looked a little insane. So I would highly recommend just learning some of those really, really basic phrases to get you through the first month or two, and then learning some more detailed phrases just for safety's sake, but also just to be polite. You're coming to a new country and being able to communicate the basics at least. Oh, and if you can learn to read Korean, it's super easy. It is such an easy language to learn to read, and a lot of it translates to English very easily. So like if you learn to read the letters that say like bus stop, it translates to something that sounds almost like bus stop. So once you start, it's called Konglish. So like once you start reading some of those words, it's really easy to be able to read signs and figure out your way around. Okay, it looks like the questions have stopped and we are at time for today, but Like I said, there's awesome blog posts that are going on the Premier TEFL website. You can also check out their Instagram page. They have, and TikTok. They have lots of great stuff on there as well. And I know that even more content is coming right now because I get to help out with some of it. So there's lots going on there as well. And I would just say reach out if you have questions. The Premier TEFL team is so lovely. I did a ton of research before picking the school that I went with, and I am a very nervous person. I researched for like 4 months before I signed up for a course, and I'm really thankful that I ended up going with Premier TEFL. Everyone I have interacted with has been so friendly, so lovely, so willing to connect me to resources and information. And that's why when they asked me to come on to help intern, I was more than happy and excited to be able to help out and to jump on the team because it was such a cool team to be able to work with. So feel free, I'm sure if you send anyone on the Premier TEFL an email and just say like, hey, where can I look for this? They would be happy to chat with you. And of course, check out their courses. I'm really glad that I went with the package I did because it got me here and it got me here under a lot less stress than it would have been with me just doing it by myself. So anyways, okay, great. Thank you all so much for joining me here tonight, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are in the world right now. And I hope that that eased some questions or concerns that you might have had. So I hope you have a wonderful morning, day, evening, whatever it may be. And I hope to see you around the Premier TEFL community sometime. All right? Bye.